Hello everybody, how are you? Thank you so much for stopping by my studio today. My name is Lonna and I am an acrylic artist. I really hope you're going to pick up some paintbrushes and paint with me today because this one's going to be lots of fun. A super adorable one that is kind of becoming a classic. So let's take a look. Oh yes, the bicycle with the basket. But I've turned mine into a Christmas scene, so that makes it a little bit different. Lights on the bicycle, which they have some bling on, which I wish you could see in the camera shot. That never shows up well in the camera shot, but trust me, it's got its bling because it is a winter or a Christmas scene. It's going to have some bling on it from me. I've painted this on my round ornament plaque from my website, lonnalam.com. I've decoupage paper onto the back. I do not show how to do that in the video. I tell you exactly how to do it. Because I have so many videos that show how to do that. So, but I do tell you step by step how to do it. So I will have that information in there for you. We got a little stenciling on this one, but you don't have to stencil it. You can hand paint your lettering if you want to. I use DecoArt Americana acrylic paints on this. It's going to be so much fun to paint, but you can paint it on any surface you want, and you can use any paints that you want. So let's grab whatever paints we're going to use and whatever surface we're going to use, and let's get painting. Alright, I've already got my surface prepped and ready to go, so I'm going to tell you what I did. I have applied scrapbooking paper to my surface, and I applied matte decoupage medium to the surface with a damp 2-inch foam roller. I also applied it to the back of the paper, pressed the paper down, smoothed it out, no air bubbles, no lumps and bumps in it. And then I apply another coat of this to the top of the paper, let it dry, and then once it's completely dry, trim your paper on a self-healing mat with a sharp, fine, thin blade. And it's important that your paper is dry before you cut it or you will tear your paper. Okay, and this one has... Thought I had a toothpick out here. This one has some holes in it that we need to poke the holes. Now you can do this while the paper is wet if you would like. With it wet, you can feel the holes from the front very easily. But I'm just going to poke it from the back to just establish where the hole is. And I want my paper to go into the hole. So I'm going to flatten it back down and push it from this side and get a nice smooth. Should be nice and flat and smooth here. Okay, that's for your hanger, for adding your wire to hang it up. If you don't plan on adding a wire to hang it up, there's no need to poke the holes in there. But I just use a toothpick. You can do it while it's wet or after it dries. Either way. Okay, I want to show you what happens if you don't get the glue in a nice, smooth, even layer on here and you have puddles of glue on your surface before you apply the paper. So I'm going to see if I can get this in the light. So right there you can see there's a big ridge right there. That is a raised place because there was a lot of glue right behind there and it didn't get smoothed and pushed out. You can use like an old credit card or an old gift card to kind of smooth it out as you before you apply your glue to the top of it. Let me see if I've got something I can show you. So just use an old card and smooth it out like this. After you put the paper on top and you've smoothed it out with your hands, take the card and smooth out. So any glue that's like that, that's raised up in a puddle, it will push it out to the edge. You need to then take a paintbrush and make sure you remove it from the edge so that it doesn't make a big glob and dry on the edge. But that's what happens if you get too much glue puddled up. Now you do need a good amount of glue to make it stick. You just don't want it puddled up. That's why I apply it with a damp 2-inch foam roller, because I can get a nice even coat on here, a nice even coat on the paper, and then I don't have that problem. Everything's nice and flat and smooth. Okay. I've already got my line drawing transferred on here with some gray graphite, but I wanted to show you some paper options. The paper that is on here came from Hobby Lobby. This is what it looks like at the store, and they do still have it. Last week I was there in November of 2021, and they still had this paper, but they also had several other options of paper that you could get. So this one you can see is just a gray wood. I love this one as well. So you can see the difference between the two. This one's got a little brown in it. This one is just plain gray. Absolutely love this one. So they have that one. They have this one in white. You know, it's a little bit more simple. It does have lines in it, so it does look like a wood grain. They've got this one in a more brown, reddish brown. Love it. And then this one in a darker brown. It's more definitely earthy tones. So lots of options for wood. They also had one in red. I did not get that one, and they had one in like a teal blue. But many, many options of wood grain paper at Hobby Lobby, and I got all of these within the last 3 or 4 weeks. So you have lots and lots of options. Okay, so now that we've got our paper adhered on, our line drawing is transferred on. It is important that you use a matte decoupage medium, because anything with a shine in it will resist the paint a little bit. So we don't want any kind of shiny sealer in it. We just want the matte stuff. So that's what you want to get. And then get your line drawing on. So we're going to grab our paints and get ready to paint our design. Okay, we've got some paint out here. I'm going to paint my topper in first. I'm going to mix a light gray color. So just black and white. You're making like a gray sky. So it is a light gray. Get some of that moisture out of my brush. We're just going to base this in. It will probably take a couple of coats to cover up the paper. It should cover up quite nicely. Okay, so that's one coat. We'll let that dry, and then we will apply a second coat. So everything will need 2 coats. I'm going to show you the first coats on a few things, and then I'll go off camera and apply second coats. So for the tire on the bicycle, we have this one here, and we have a little bit of the tire back here. So we're going to paint those in with just straight black. And I used a 14 flat up here, but for this I'm going to use a 4 round. So you use whatever brush is good for you. You can use a flat brush in here as well. Try and keep my tire the same width. I can see over here I didn't draw it quite the same width here. So we're just going to fill in. Take your time, don't rush it. All the way around. Adjust if you need to your your lines, because they may not be perfectly straight on here. At least mine are not. I think my outside line looks pretty good, but my inside line looks a little wobbly. We're going to be putting some snow on here to kind of cover up a little bit of the tire. And that looks really fat down there, so I'm going to have to fatten up a little bit here. That looks a little bit closer. Add a little bit of water to your paint and help thin it down a little bit. Now this one is drawn pretty fat, so I'm going to try and narrow this up just a little bit. I'll take it from this. Since this one is really going to be in part of the focal part, we want to try and get it as round as possible. Okay, then we'll move over to this one back here. And it's a little bit farther away, so it's not as critical. And we're just going to see parts of this one. Wild hair on the end of this brush. Let's see part of it here. Okay, we just want to make sure that we're creating an even layer there. Okay, the seat is also, I believe, black, so we're gonna paint the seat in with black. We're not seeing all of it, but okay. The petals, well, we can only see one petal, but we'll paint it in with black as well. I gotta get that wild hair off the end of my brush here. I'm not really sure what that is. Okay, I think I got it. I think I got it. Okay, petal. We're working on the petal here. All right, and then of course everything will take 2 coats, so okay. All right, so let's see. The chain area here is going to be a dark gray, so we're going to add a little bit of white to our brush since we had black on it, and this area right here, we're going to paint with gray, and I'm going to try and make it even. And I can see I forgot some lines on here, so I'm going to have to add some lines on here. So I'll just draw those in. those are the open spots. See if I can see my lines here. Yep, that one I didn't quite get right. Just remove a little bit of paint. I didn't draw my lines dark enough for sure. Okay, this should be round in the center here. Sort of, not quite that small. And then this one is not painted in correctly at all. So let's remove that. That's another good thing about having your decoupage on your paper. It makes it very easy to remove paint. As long as it hasn't cured. Okay, so hopefully that was a little helpful right there. Has those gaps in the chain area. The chain itself, we're going to add a little bit of white to our brush. And a little bit more. I want it to be close to the color that's up there in the topper. And we're going to paint this part here. And it comes down underneath here. Okay. A little more white, and we're going to paint this part in. This is the part that goes out to the petal. Paint it on this side as well. That's with that same light gray that we used up at the top. I'm also going to paint these sections here in with the gray. And this one here. So the light gray paints the topper, this bolt area, and this bolt area, and the chain. A little bit more black in the mix, and we paint in the chain cover here. Make it a dark gray. Okay, and then straight black paints in the tires. I made a mess of this chain part. Must have been wet and I drug my hand through it. Okay, so everything there will get 2 coats. Okay, let's paint in the basket. We're going to base it in with sable brown. Again, everything will take 2 coats. I'm just showing you the first coat. And then I'll go do my second coats off camera. Okay. Okay, we're going to paint the bicycle in with berry red. We're going to have have a red bicycle. Put some water out on my palette here. Misting the edge of my palette with just plain water to have some fresh water when I need it, some fresh clean water. So we're going to paint all the bicycle parts in with berry red. Now I think I'm going to have to undercoat this with some gray, so I know the background has gray in it already, but that red is not going to paint over it. So we'll take our light gray and just paint a nice layer, kind of thin. It doesn't have to be very thick. We'll paint it on here. So that when we put our red on top, we don't have to apply so many coats. Mix a little bit more here. Some of that water out of my brush. Can't see where my pattern line ends here. Doesn't go that far. Okay. Then after you get your initial base coats on, you can go and erase any graphite lines that you didn't cover up. And then we'll come back in and add our red on here. See, I believe the handles are going to be a different color. Nope, we're going to paint them in with gray as well. Okay. Alright. We've got our initial first coats on everything. So I'll go off camera and put second coats on. And we will come back and paint our bicycle in. Okay, I've got all my undercoats on here. So let's go ahead and paint our bicycle in with our berry red, and again this will take 2 coats on top of this gray. And I might change this color. I'm thinking I want a darker, richer color here. So we might save this one for a highlight color. I'm just going to remove it. water. You can use a baby wipe, but you have to be careful. Don't remove your underlayer. Baby wipe will remove all of your underlayer. I'm going to get a different color of red. Okay, Rookwood red, I think, is what I want to paint this in with. Let's see if I'm going to like this one. And then we can already have like a layer of our shading on here, and then add our highlights on here. I've gone down to a 6 flat for this. I was using that round brush, but with the flat I can get this nice chisel edge and go along my lines and then just paint in between. So we're going to apply 2 coats of Rookwood red, not on these metal bolt areas. There's 3 of them. One here, and one just underneath the seat. So those will stay the light gray. The handles will stay light gray, so we're only painting the frame of the bicycle. Okay, Rookwood red. When we get our second coat of red on here, it will look very different. A little bit of water in my paint here. The 6 flat should fit as long as you don't push super hard on the brush. Will fit right inside our lines that we have here. Okay, so I'll finish this part of the fender. I'm going to go off camera and finish all my other gray areas. So the other areas we're painting are these brackets here, this fender, this pole, and this thing that goes over the chain guard. This is the chain guard. Okay, these 2 areas, the chain and the bicycle handles up here, will remain the light gray. I'll just go ahead and put the first coat on camera because I don't want you to get confused by that. Okay, so in between here, in between those 2 bolts, the chain guard, okay, and this fender. Paint everything in individual on its own so that you don't it doesn't all blend together, and you can retain your lines of where things are without actually going in and adding your pattern lines back on. Okay, so those are all the parts that will be red. So I'm going to go off camera and apply a second coat onto my red. Okay, let's paint this little circle in here with a light gray, and then we're going to add our spokes in. Okay, so we're going to add our spokes in with possibly okay. I'm going to use an Identi-Pen to put my spokes in with because I think it will be easier than a detail brush, but you can do it with a detail brush as well if you want to transfer your lines on. That could be helpful to see where you're going. I'll make sure my chalk lines are all, graphite lines are all erased. Any that I haven't painted over can be erased. Make sure you erase away, brush them off away from your paint. So after you get all of your base coats, undercoats, all that stuff on, that's when you want to brush away all of your eraser stuff into your trash, away from your painting. Okay, so I am just going to use an Identi-Pen to create some spokes in here. So I'm just going to start with one going up the top, one coming down here. And we're just going to start dividing. I'm going to divide it here, and then divide that, and divide that. Okay, so one in the middle. I'm not worrying about getting it on my gray paint. Okay, that will all be fixed. So we got our spokes on that one. And this one over here we can't really see much, so I'll put the one that's like coming over here. We'll have one here, maybe a Pika one there, one here, here. So we'll just put, it just needs a few over here, not a lot. So that made putting on the spokes incredibly easy. Now I'm going to touch up my gray. Okay, that looks really good on our spokes. We can come back in and darken those. We could even use the thick end to make them thicker, to be like a fatter spoke, and I might do that here in a little bit. I'm not really sure on that. I see a little place I need to touch up on my tire. I missed there. Okay, we're looking really good. We're going to work on the basket next. Okay, I am going to use the fat edge of this marker to fatten up our lines because I do want to put a little bit of a highlight on them. I'm doing a terrible job staying on the same line. Oh my goodness, that was terrible. Okay, that looks much better, I think. Although I did a really bad job of staying on my line. And, you know, you can't really erase it. I can try and touch it up with some gray in the, like the background color. But a little more white in there. That kind of covered it up. Kinda. Bring some of that into the background. Maybe that will fix that a little bit. Okay. And I will go back over my gray circle here again. All right. Okay, we're going to get working on the basket now. Right, so we're going to use a rake brush. So I'm going to load it up with some water and add some of that water to my paint here. Thin it down a little bit. I don't want a lot of water on my ferrule, so I'm going to wipe my ferrule off. And we're going to apply this on our basket, just going across it like this, all the way to the edge. You can go out past it because we can clean that up with a damp brush. So don't stop short. Okay, so that is across. Okay, we're going to add a little bit of our base color, which is sable brown, to our brush, a little bit more water. And we're going to let's see, I want to go up and down here, but I want a little bit smaller stroke there. So I'm going to grab a different brush. I'm going to grab my little 6 flat and load up with that mix. And I'm going to go, I need a little bit more paint, less water. We're going to go across this way. And across this way. Okay, we're starting some little basket weave stuff there. I'm going to use my little detail liner here with that mix. I don't think this is going to show up on top of this. It's too much of the same color. But that's okay. We're going to go in between with some of our what color did I have? Dark chocolate. Couldn't think what color I had. Just some thin lines in here. We're also going to take this along the edge and start creating a little bit of an edge here. This is a 10-0 liner. We also want some along the bottom down here. We can't see much of the bottom of the basket there, but we can see a little bit more as we come across. And I'm going to go in between and add a few more lines in here. I want some lighter lines here, so I'm going to grab some toffee and put some of that out. And thin it down. And I want some lighter wiggly lines through here. And we'll put some of this up here. And a couple through here, some highlight. And we'll put a couple going this way. And a few down here. Okay. So that was milk chocolate and sable brown and milk chocolate mixed together, and then some toffee on there. So we can shade on our basket now. Okay, let's shade on the basket. I've got bittersweet chocolate for that. We're gonna see how that's gonna look. So we want to shade along underneath the basket edge here. We'll go along the outside edge on the top edge. Go along the bottom. Along the outside edges. Walk it in just a little bit. Repeat any of your floats here. We're also going to go along this edge of the top edge, I guess I should say. So it's going to look fairly dark right there. Darken this little triangle corner here. Above the edge on the bottom of the basket. I think we'll just keep it down at the bottom. Okay. So that's our shading, and we're going to highlight with an equal mix of toffee and, if I can get my Snow White to come, Snow White along this top edge right here. And a little bit down the center, a little bit here, a little bit here, and then I'm just going to chisel edge couple in here. Okay. Okay. All right, our basket got a little dark, but I think it will be okay. Okay, I've changed my basket color to golden straw. So now I'm going to take a smaller rake brush. The last one I had was a 1/2 inch. This one's a 3/8 inch. And I'm going to mix some antique gold and a little bit of burnt umber. So I've got my burnt umber here. I'm just bringing some down with some water and blending it. Just darkening up that antique gold a little bit. So it will make some lines that we can see going across here. take this and do a little wiggle, wiggle, wiggle down the basket. And on this edge, I'm going to tilt it up so it just makes a smaller line. Okay, while we still have this brush, we can add some lines up on our upper edge. You can also do this with a detail brush if you want. Okay, and I do want to add a couple just going up and down in between. Try and keep it off of my bicycle. Oh, have yellow or gray or some kind of paint on my finger there. Okay, so we've got a good start to our basket. So we're going to shade and highlight on it. That other color just was not doing it for me. So I may or may not leave that part in my video. Okay, let's work on the bicycle part, the metal part. So we painted it with Rookwood Red. So we're going to take Rookwood Red and a tiny little bit of black to darken that. Make our shading color. And we're going to shade right here, right here, here, pretty much everywhere where it meets something. I'm using a 3/8 inch angle brush, but you could go down to a 1/4 inch angle. Okay, make sure you haven't missed any place. We're also going to apply this shading on the lower edges of everything. So along this edge here. I guess this would be the left side of this part here next to the tire. You have to keep your brush, if you're using the size that I'm using, you have to keep it tilted up because it will fill in that whole area if you don't. And you just want to go along the one edge. Edge next to the tire. This front one here will be shaded pretty much the whole thing because it's also getting some shadow from the basket here. Okay. And move it back here. Okay, so we got all of the lower edges, the left and lower edges of the bicycle red frame. Okay, we're going to create a highlight with berry red, so I'm going to load up a 2 round. Tap my paper towel just a little bit because we're going to dry brush this on here across the top of the opposite side and put a little bit through the middle here. But we're going to highlight by dry brushing down our, oops, try not to get in your background. Keep a damp brush handy, clean up. I'm just kind of dragging the brush. The brush is damp, but I'm just dragging it on the opposite side of where the shadow is. You can repeat the shadow if you need to. That's our first little dry brush highlight, and I know it doesn't show up super well, but it shows up enough. Okay, I'm going to put some Neon's Fiery Red out. If you don't have this color, oh man, any kind of bright pink will do, like a electric pink or something would work just fine. I'm going to just dirty brush right into this Neon's Fiery Red and let it mix with the paint that's in my brush. Okay, then we're going to just drag this color onto our bicycle. Just dry brushing it. Oops. Stay out of the background. Keep a damp brush handy to clean up. So that's really brightening up that really well. Okay. Now, if you prefer just to do a float with these colors, you certainly can. It's totally optional to you. We're going to do another layer of highlight on here with the Neon's Fiery Red. So let's take our neons and just a little bit of white. Tiny little bit of white, and we'll just add a light little highlight. Just kind of a hit and miss little line on here. a little bit brighter color I mixed here, so I'm going to go back over some of these that I already did. Okay. That looks pretty good. I think we'll leave it there. We may add a little bit brighter highlight later, but I think right now it looks pretty good. Okay, let's work on our gray areas. First thing I'm going to do is take some of my black and thin it down a little bit and line on each side of this. You could also get your Identa pen and do it with the Identa pen. Okay, now I'm going to take a 1/4 inch angle brush and load some black, work it into my brush, and we're going to start working on some of these metal parts here. A little bit more paint, less water. Okay, I'm just going to work on one side for now. All the way. On the chain itself, I'm going to take my black and create some X's on the chain. That's just so we know it's a chain. We'll shade on it in a minute when it dries. We're going to do next to our hand grips. And then this one is behind, so we're going to shade a little bit there. We're working on just the gray areas now. We're going to go up underneath this area here, create a little bit of a shadow, and around this. Go along the inside and a bit out here. So I'm going to have much highlight on that. Okay. I'm going to go along one edge here just by being up on the tippy toe of this brush. So if you can't tippy toe it and get a thin line, then you need to use a liner brush. I'm going to repeat on these bolt areas, or whatever they are, connection areas, and bring it over a little bit farther. We just want the highlight on one side. And then I'm going to go along the bottom edge of the chain next to the chain cover. And then I need to go on this. Wider there. Okay, then we're going to go up here and go along the bottom. Okay, that's just way too wet, so Okay. Now on the hand grips, they're also going to be gray. We could paint them a different color, but paint them white. That would be pretty. And I'm going to float a shadow kind of down the center of the top one, but leave a gap at the edge there. And this one here, I'm just going to bring the shading down a little bit farther. Okay, I think that's got all of our, oh, except for our little circle here. It needs some shading on it, so we'll do the lower part of it. Okay, so that was our shading on our gray areas. All right, all of our gray areas will be highlighted with white, and you'll probably have to do it a couple of times. So this is going to get a white highlight up here. Opposite side that you put the shading on. Okay, this is going to get a little highlight through here, 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 and out here. And then the chain's going to get a little highlight on top of it. And then over here, you can go to a little round brush here, or a liner, and add a little highlight on there. We're going to repeat that. I want it to dry though. While it's drying, we're going to take some white and thin it down just a little bit. I want it to flow off of a detail liner. And we're going to highlight on the spokes a little bit, down the center of them. This is white paint, but it's just slightly thinned, so it will flow, not so thin that it becomes transparent. Okay, I think while I have this liner, I'll just go ahead and brighten the highlights here. On all of our gray areas, just by putting a little line on that right in the middle of the highlight that we floated on. And don't forget these spokes out here. They'll get a little bit of highlight as well. Okay, I think we need to add just a little bit of this maybe on the bike. Highlight edges. That's why I said I wasn't sure if I was done with the highlighting on this yet, because I didn't know how much brighter I needed to go. I needed to wait till I got some other elements done. Okay, that looks much better. Okay, that should finish up our gray areas. Okay, sorry, thought the camera was on. I'm dry brushing a little bit of Provence Sky on the tires, just to create a little bit of a highlight in here. And I'm going to put a little bit on the seat. And a little bit on the pedal. It's a nice little highlight added in there. I think that looks really good. Just straight Provence Sky. Okay. All right, we're going to add our elements into our basket now. So we've got a tree in here and 3 ornaments. Okay, so I've kind of drawn them in where they're going to go here. We're going to start with the tree and work on the tree and the garland at the same time. So I'm going to put my tree in here and bring it out about there. And I'm just going to start adding some tree shape in here. Hauser dark green. I don't want it to be on too much on my bicycle here. All the way down to the basket. Okay, I know it looks looks pretty bad. That's our first layer there. I'm going to go ahead and take this same green with a round brush, and let's see, I made 3 loops on here. So I did 1, 2, 3. So I'm just going to tap with a round brush garland on here. It's that same Hauser dark green. Just tap, tap, tap. Okay. Messy, I know, but easy for sure. Bring this edge of the tree. I want it to be a little bit closer to the ornaments. So I may have to adjust the tippy top of this tree to be right here. So I can make this tree just a little bit bigger. I want it to come behind the ornaments just a little bit. Just a little triangle shape there. I might put a little bit more of this down here. Make that a little bit fatter. Just tapping with a round brush. Can still get nice texture. Looks better. I like that. Okay, our next layer on the tree. Okay, I'm going to draw a line because that might help you visually see where I'm going to. Might help yourself as well. So I'm going to load my 1/4 inch angle brush. And we're going to start at the bottom down here and just chop, chop, chop. You can double load with that dark color, so you can put the dark on the heel of the toe and the lighter on the toe of the brush. There's our second layer on our tree there. I'm going to go over the handles here just to bring that together a little bit, and then I'm going to take a damp brush and remove it because I want it to look like it's behind the handlebars, not in front of it. Okay. We're also going to take our round brush and tap this color onto our garland here. Okay, we don't want to cover up all of our dark, so keep that mostly in the middle. And our final color is going to be the margarita color. Again, you can double load with this color. Double load the You can really make your tree any design that you want. There's so many different ways to paint a tree in, so don't feel like you have to do it exactly like mine. A few more little strokes down here. That had a lot of open stuff going on there. Okay, so that's our tree right there. We'll do a little bit of shading on it when it dries. So let's take our round brush and tap in some of that light green into here. A lot of water in my brush, let me get that out. Okay, I'm going to go back to a little bit of that second green. Tap a little bit of that back in there. We're going to put a few dots of red inside, or on the greenery on the basket. Oh my god. For the life of me, think what that was called, but so just a few little red dots. This is with berry red. Okay. And maybe a little dot of white on them to brighten them. And then we will shade underneath it with just a little bit of burnt umber. Okay, a little bit of a shadow there. A little bit of a shadow right here. And our tree's dry enough now, so we can go into our dark green. I might add a tiny little bit of black to it. Make it like a black green. And we'll show, ooh, that's a lot of paint. We'll shade around our bicycle here. Get a little bit of shadow there. I'm going to have to touch up on my bicycle there. So that was the gray. Back with a little bit of black along this edge. Get the shadow back in there. And then the white along the top. So just touching up where we've got some white where it didn't need, or green where it didn't need to be. I think that's looking pretty darn good. Let's add our ornaments in here. So we've got a star, and the star comes here. Behind these two ornaments. Okay, and the ornaments, one is blue and one is red. So crisp blue will be the ornament that is closest to the tree, and then berry red will be the other one. See if I can see my ornaments here. So this one is here, goes down into the basket here. This one is berry red. And I'd have to add a tiny little bit of black to that. Get it darker so that when we come back with our next coat, we can just go straight berry red. You probably should undercoat it with gray. I'll just make a gray real quick. Still got red in my brush, but that's okay. Because this one definitely needs to be undercoated. And then this one can be over the edge or tucked in. You know what? I think I'm going to make it go over the edge. I think that's the way I originally painted it. So like it's just setting on the edge of the basket there. So that was with a gray undercoat. The yellow one will base in with the golden straw. and everything will take 2 colors, but when I do the red one, I'll go into my berry red and paint it. Okay, I'm going to get those dry and apply a second coat on them, and we'll be back and finish them up. Okay, I've got 2 coats on them. They're not quite dry yet. We're going to go down here and add a little dry brush highlight on our blue with some white. Get moisture out of my brush because I want to just have straight paint on my brush. And just a little bit more paint than that. Add just a little bit of highlight on these blue areas, because we might pile some snow on there, so that probably won't even be seen too much. Okay, our ornaments have little toppers, so I'm going to take, I'm going to use a little round brush, I think, and some light gray. So again, go back to your black and white mix and mix a light gray. Okay, and we're going to have, this one's topper is going to be over here, and they don't have to be great big. Okay, and then this one's topper is going to be out here on this edge. Able to see it too much. Okay, I'm going to wipe the excess off and just corner load into some black, and I'm going to put some black along the blue, next to the blue color on the topper, and then on the right edge. And then on this one, we're going to put it next to the red. I'm doing this while the paint is wet so we can kind of blend it into that wet paint. A little bit more black on my brush here. And we can just create a little bit of shadow there. And we're still not going to be able to see these a lot, so I'm going to get a little bit of white. Highlight them. Try to highlight them as I lay my arm in my paint. White paint. I've got too much moisture in my brush. I'm still just using this little round brush here. A bit of a highlight on there. Okay, I'm going to go in with my detail brush and some black and create a little bit of a wire on here and on this one. I'm going to put a little bit more of that black on the edge next to the ornament and the shadow edge. And that might help them pop a little bit more. And then take the white with the detail liner and highlight on the light edge and a little bit on the wire. And that's kind of the toppers for those. While I have this detail brush, I'm going to create a wire on this one. Maybe I think I better add some burnt umber. I'm using antique gold. I'm going to mix some burnt umber with it. Actually, I might just go straight burnt umber. And make a wire on here. little hook on there. We'll highlight that in just a minute, but we're going to work on shading on our ornaments. The blue one we're going to shade with Deep Midnight Blue, and the red one, of course, with Rookwood Red, but I think I'm going to have to put another layer of berry red on there. Maybe add a little bit of white to it because that gray I put underneath it was a little dark. So we're going to shade where it goes down into the basket and next to the red one. Okay, we'll come back and repeat that. I'm going to grab another layer of this red and add a tiny little bit of white into it. I need to really lighten this up. My gray underneath was too dark, so it's why you want to keep it a light gray so we can keep our red that vibrant red. Okay, we'll let that one dry. We'll go work on the star. We're going to shade first with some antique gold next to the blue ornament and the red ornament, and on the lower edges. I think that topper is dry. I can add a little highlight of white on it. And again, I stuck my arm in the paint. Okay. I think my blue one is dry enough to apply. Oh, way too much water in my brush. I'm using a smaller brush. I don't want near as much water in my brush because it just thins the paint too much. Okay, that's got the blue one shaded. I think the red one is dry enough to shade. So I'm going to shade here. And I'm definitely going to have to add some black or some burnt umber into that, or some green. Any of those colors will darken that red just fine. I'm going to keep it down on that lower edge. Okay, my star definitely needs a darker shadow, so we're going to go into a little bit of burnt umber. A little bit of that on there. Okay, let me repeat the shading on the red one because it definitely needs darker. Too much water in my brush. Rookwood Red and a little mix of either black, burnt umber, or your dark green. Any of the colors will do. I just used a tiny little bit of black. Okay, I'm going to highlight on the blue one with a mix of Provence Sky and white. Just going to do an equal mix here. On the yellow one, we're going to go straight white. Onto it. Okay, Okay, the red one, we're going to use the Neon's Fiery Red. Okay, on the blue one, I'm just going to come back with a little bit of white with my detail liner. The yellow one as well, I can add just a few little brighter strokes in here with some white. Alright, while all that's drying, because I can't go to the red one yet, it's still wet, I'm going to shade on my tree. And let's see, we use the dark green. How's our dark green? I'm going to mix a little bit of black into it like I did over here. And we'll create a little shadow. Around our ornaments. I'm going to take this dark color and add just a little bit of a darker shadow right next to the red ornament. Okay, we'll put just a little bit of this here and there along the front edge, because there might be some places tucked in behind the basket. A little bit more of some shading here, a little shading underneath this ornament. Okay, then our bright little highlight on our red one with some red. With some white. And then a final little dot of white. And then add a little brightening wherever you need it. Okay, that looks pretty good for our ornaments, I think. Might shade just a little bit more. This is where you can just look at it and see what else it needs. A little bit more of the burnt umber, maybe add a tiny bit of black to it, just the tiniest of amounts. Make it almost a soft black. I think we need a little bit darker. Ooh, that's a lot darker. Not overly dark. We don't want to make our star too dirty. Okay, now is the time you can check it out, see what it needs. We're going to move up to the topper. And once we get that topper done, then we're going to add some snow. First we'll add some shading around the outside of the ornament. And then we'll add some snow on it. Alright, so transfer on this line if you need to. We're going to create a faux top up here. Okay, we're going to take some black and side load your angle brush or your flat brush. I'm using a flat brush. Make sure I got water on my palette because I'm going to be floating and I'll need water. Okay, we're going to go along this edge first. And I'm going to walk it in. Okay, now I'm going to take my mop brush and very, very gently mop that. It's very wet, so as I pick up a little bit of water and paint, I'm going to remove it from my brush so that I don't end up removing the paint as I get out here to the thicker paint area. Okay. Let's go to the other side. It's loading. Okay, we're going to do this side the same way. We're going to go up to our line and then we're going to walk it over. Okay, then the mop brush. Wipe it off as you go. You're just barely pouncing into that and gently blending that. Okay, we need that to be dry. I think I'm going to go to a smaller brush now, so I'm going to go to my 3/8 inch angle, wherever I put it. Okay, we're going to load with the black on the corner for a float. I'm going to go a little bit along this back edge back here. Okay, I'm going to very gently mop that. It's pretty wet. Right there is incredibly wet. Okay, I want to make sure that this area is dry down here. And I'm going to float underneath this all the way across. Very, very gently mop that if you need to. I didn't have a whole lot of water in my brush that time, so, and I didn't take it down too far. Okay, I need to fix back here because it looks weird. Not really sure what's going on there. I think I have a burr in my paper. Let's see if I can cover that up. Smoother out there. Okay. Highlight with some white. So we're going to highlight along this edge. I'm going to highlight along this edge down here while I have the smaller brush. But we're going to highlight down the center of that. So we're going to go back to our flat brush and side load some white. And we're going to go down the the center. Flip it over and go up the center. And grab our mop brush and mop, mop, mop. I'm going to take a damp brush and soften this a little bit. So we've got a bright highlight there. That highlight could actually go all the way up. A little bit more down here, and a little bit more in the center right there. Alright, we're going to add a string on here, or a wire thing on here with our black. Let me get some fresh black out. So thin it down, and then it's going to start here, and it's going to end here, but it's not going to be very tall. Just look like a wire going across there. Very easy peasy. Add a little highlight of white on it. Put just a little shadow underneath it of some black. A little bit right here, and a little bit through there. A little shadow. So I want these outside edges to be dark or light. Maybe a little bit darker. And then if you need to brighten up along this edge, you can do that. Or do like me and completely get outside your lines. I mean, I really got outside my lines here. Take this highlight all the way across. I think that will look much better. Okay, we definitely need more black back here. Create some negative space back in there. much better. Oh, we're almost done with this one. Okay, we've got a couple more things to do. We're going to shade underneath our topper and down just to here, and about down to here with some black around the outer edges. Now this is just going to be a wash of black. You could also use burnt umber. You can mix burnt umber and black together and get a soft black. We might do that. I think we might do a soft black mix. You can grab soft black. We haven't used it in this project, but we do have some brown in here, so it will be perfectly fine to use. Okay, I've moved to a 3/4 inch flat brush. I'm going to side load some lamp black, but I want this to be pretty sheer, so I'm going to let it blend some with the water in my brush. Actually, I'm going to wipe a little bit out. That was too much. And I want to get it nice and sheer. Now you have to work the water into the paint to get it sheer, but not let the paint go over super far onto your brush. Wipe off excess stuff onto your paper towel, and that's not quite dark enough, so I'm going to get a little bit more paint. Tap my paper towel. We're going to go underneath our topper. And create a little shadow, and that is painting weird. Tap that out. Okay. The brush is wanting to separate, so I'm not really sure what that's about. Maybe I didn't get it cleaned good last time, so I'm going to go down to the tire, or not the tire, the seat, and then down to the tire. I'm definitely going to repeat that because that is not quite as dark as what I would like. And then we're going to go on this side, we're going to go about down to here, about a little more than halfway past the center of the tire and up, because we're going to put some snow in. Down there. Let me dry that because I want to repeat that. Here. Man, this brush is, maybe I didn't get enough water in it to begin with. Try it again. Not sure that made any difference, so I probably didn't clean it well the last time I used it. Keeps wanting to separate a little bit. So I'll grab my mop brush because I may need it. I'm going to go up here a little bit again. Just a light layer, not too dark. Lighter layers are better. Go between the seat and the tire and up. And very gently mop. And then we'll go on this side. Now you can make this wider if you want to bring it in more into the surface. Make sure that's dry. Needs to be just a little darker over here. Okay, and then I'll mop. A lot of water in there. That looks pretty good. Alright, now it's time for the snow at the bottom. So we are going to add our snow. Now, you can use whatever kind of brush you like to use to make snow. Let me grab my brush. Okay, I've got a 3/8 inch Deerfoot, and we're going to put some Provence Sky out and some Snow White. And we'll be adding Glamour Dust to this, so we will get some of that out in just a minute. So I'm going to take my Deerfoot dry and tap it into some Provence Sky, and we're going to put some snow down here. You bring it up as high as you want, pile it up, bring it up on the tire. I know we just spent all that work painting that tire, but you got to add some snow in here. Put a little bit maybe laying inside the tire. It up on my chain thing. Okay, that's the Provence Sky that we're using right there. Now you can take a little bit of this and pile it up on your bicycle in places if you want to. I'm going to wipe this off. Let me grab a clean paper towel. And I'm just going to wipe off the excess paint here since I'm using this brush dry. Okay, and we're going to go into our white. Okay, I moved this off my easel because I thought it would be easier to paint the snow in down here off of the easel. So I'm going to grab some white on my brush. It's going to blend a little bit with my blue. And just pile your snow any way that you want to. I'm going to add another layer of white. Again, you can use any kind of brush that you like to use for snow. And if you get more on your bicycle than you want to have on it, then simply take a damp brush and remove it off of the bicycle tire. And I'm going to go to a smaller brush, I think, and tap some on here because I want to put some in a few places, and I definitely want to tap back in there. I removed too much of that white, so I'm just going to get an angle brush here. Angle brush is not going to give me the texture that I want, so I have to be careful. I'm just going back where I removed too much of that and put some of it back. I want to see a little bit of the tire there. Okay. Okay, so this is where you can decide if you want some of the snow up on your bicycle somewhere, and I'm pretty sure I want some on my seat. So I'm just going to take my round brush and tap a little pile of snow right there. Oh, maybe I want a little bit that's piled here. Let me go into some of my blue because I don't have blue here yet. And we'll put a little blue there. And maybe a little bit piled down here in this little area. And then just pick a couple places that maybe you've got some snow piled on your bike. Maybe a little bit is piled right here. Okay, that's just with the Provence blue. I didn't put Provence blue on there because I had some on the seat already. So now I'm just going to come back with a little white and tap on top of that. You'll definitely have to do the white a couple of times. I'm going to put some blue just underneath this area a little bit. And let's see. I might put a little bit of snow right here. So the Provence sky, and then a little bit of white. A little bit on the top of the tire here. Wipe that off, grab my white. A little bit of snow there. Where else can we put? We can put maybe a little bit of snow piled right here on the edge of the basket. We can put some snow on our ornaments or on our tree if you want to put some snow on there. So let's put just a little bit of snow that has landed on our tree maybe. So that's a little bit of blue and then a little bit of white. Okay. And then a little bit up here. Blue, a little bit of white, and then we'll come back and maybe do a little bit more of the white to brighten it up, because it all is certainly going to fade down in there. We don't need to do down here again, I don't think, unless you feel like it needs it. Mine is still very, very wet down here. That looks pretty good. You can also spatter this with snow. I'm going to get this dry real quick. Okay, I think on my original drawing I put some tassels coming off of the end of the handlebars. I was going to do like red and green, but I've decided not to do that. We still have our lights that we need to add on here. Which I was going to wrap the bicycle, the main beams of the bicycle, with lights and put some lights on there. But before I do that, I want to spatter it with some snow. Not one of my favorite things to do, so you could leave this part off if it's something you don't like to do as well. So I'm going to take my rake brush that I used earlier and get some paint loaded in it with a little bit of water. And then a little bit more water, I think. Definitely need bigger drops here. I don't want it on my topper, so I will definitely remove it from my topper. I'm not really sure how much of that you can even see on there, but and any elements that you don't want the snow to be on, just remove it. Damp brush. Get it before the paint is dried. It will come off very easily. Okay, so we got snow spatter on there. Okay, so now let's work on adding our lights on there. Okay, let's paint our wire in for our lights with a gray mix. A light gray. Now you can leave these lights off if you want. Let me zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. I'm just coming from this side, wrapping it around, and going back. Make it look like it's wrapped around it. A little bit more white to that because I want it to be a little lighter. We may spatter again after we get all these bulbs painted on here. Okay, one more over here. Okay, probably didn't have you on camera at all for that last one because I zoomed you in. That's what happens when I zoom in. So I'm going to erase my lines that I drew in here. Make sure all my other ones I painted are dry. This one's not quite dry. We're going to put our bulbs on here. So transfer any details you need to from the pattern. I'm just going to draw some in here and paint them in. And hopefully they'll be close to the same places as what the pattern shows. So I just say go along here and try to make them going all different directions, not the same direction. I'm going to be able to see these down here. Okay, so our colors we're going to paint our ornaments in with okay, let's see what color they're going to be. Crisp blue. No. The lights. Let's see. We're going to do berry red, bright yellow, and holly green. Okay, well that won't work out because bright yellow is not bright enough. So we're going to use golden straw, holly green, and berry red should be our color, but I think we're going to mix some white with it. So I'm going to change that instruction. Mix a little white with our red. So we'll just use a little brush, and you're going to go every third one. So if I'm going to start with this one, 1, 2, 3. So the next yellow one is here. Yellow, green, red, yellow. Can't really see where I drew any. I feel like there's one in there. One there, one there, one there. That one should have been yellow. Okay. Because I can't see them very well, so I'm going to have to remove these two. Green one. Let's go with blue instead of red. So we're going to go with Provence Sky. I don't want red because red is the color of the bike and they will blend in too much. So we're going to go Provence Sky. So we've got yellow one here. We're going to put a green one there, a red one there. Let's put a yellow one here. Green one. Okay, I'm just going to keep swapping out my colors as I go here. Okay, yellow. Okay, that was green. Now I need blue. I'll make the blue one go this direction. Yellow. Green. That was a big bulb. Big bulb. Alright, we're going to need 2 coats on here of all of these colors. And you'll have your pattern to put on, so you won't have to change colors every time like I am. So I can't see my lines, so I'm going where I can. Okay. Okay, I'm going to put a blue in here. And a yellow one here. I'm going to put a green one up here. Green one here, although that's not where one would technically be. Once I get these in, I'm going to erase my lines that I drew in here and then see if there's any gaps and put some extra bulbs in here, because where I have my lines painted, it's really hard for me to tell where I'm going. Okay, that goes around this way, so we'll put a green one here. And blue one out here. And a yellow one down here. Okay. Alright, I need to get these dry and get a second coat on. Alright, I've got 2 coats on them now, and they're dry. I'm going to be using, now the colors we put on here were just simply undercoats, okay, because we want our ornaments, obviously our lights, to be bright. So I'm going to be using bright yellow on my lights, so I want to add some of that onto my star over here to brighten it up. So just a little bit of bright yellow onto that. You could put a little bit on the basket in a couple places if you wanted to. Add some yellow brightness in there. No, that's too bright, so we'll forgo that. Too bright. Alright, so our ornaments. Okay. Brush, brush, brush. Grab a round brush. So we're going to take our yellow and put a coat of bright yellow on our yellow ornament and margarita on our green ones. We want to brighten these up. Some of my ornaments I got ginormous, and again it might take 2 coats to get these bright, but we needed that undercoat on there, which you could mix a little bit of white with the golden straw if you need to, and that will keep that golden straw a little bit more on the bright side. Okay, we're going to put the margarita on our green ones. Whew. Let me thin that down just a little bit. We want like the LED lights that they have now. They are bright, bright. this is Margarita on that green, and I know this is making us have like 4 coats on each one of these bulbs. But they're going to look great when we're done. A couple of green ones really close there. And then the blue will get crisp blue on them. And so I'll show you the first layer here. And I'll go off camera, get them dry, and apply a second. I might have to put it back up on my easel so I can see it a little bit better. Had it laid down for the spattering. So there is the first coat. That definitely brightens up those bulbs, which I like so much better. So I'm going to get it dry and apply a second coat on top of them with those brighter colors, the bright yellow, the Margarita, and the crisp blue. Okay, while that's drying, I'm going to take my black and thin it with a little bit of water. And then I'm going to make a line right beside our gray one. On the red part of the bicycle. And just create that little bit of shadow. And then we'll add just a little bit of a highlight on them with some white. This will make them stand on top a little bit more. Bit of highlight of white on the wire, just like in the center part. Definitely need to thin that a little bit so it flows. Now you can add the like the screw part of the bulb on here. I wasn't going to get them quite that technical, but you can certainly do that with a little bit of gray and then shade them. Alright, so now we're ready to add some glow onto our lights. Actually, we're gonna add the glow first. So you're gonna want some scruffy brushes here, one for each color. So we're gonna take our Margarita color, and I'm gonna work it into this dry brush, and grab a dry paper towel, tap that off, because I just want a little bit of this paint to come off, and we're going to put some of this around our, might have to add a little bit of that other green to make it look more green. glow around the green bulbs. These are battery-powered lights. So we're going to mix the two greens together. Remove excess paint. Rub it around the bulb. I'm going to do the same thing for grab some more of that yellow, mix it in there. Okay, green ones. That's yellow. This one's green. 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 Okay, again, this part is totally optional, okay? So I'm not sure how much of that green glow you're seeing on the camera. Don't want to get too close because then you won't see everything. Okay, we're going to move on to the blue, crisp blue. Work it into the brush, offload it. I just want a little bit of this color around the bulb. Definitely don't want it on that well, it does kind of need to be there, but maybe not quite that bright. You have to have a separate brush for each one of these. Don't want that on my yellow one. So let me remove that. Okay, so we got a little glow on those. And now we'll move to the yellow ones. There's some nice glow coming around those. Okay, I'm not going to clean these brushes in case I have to do it all again. Alright, we're going to start shading on them. On the blue ones, we're going to shade with the Deep Midnight. Oh man, I need to get that moisture out of my brush. I'm using my small angle brush, so I don't want to have any moisture in it. So at the base of each one, we're going to put this Deep Midnight Blue. Again, you can do the little post things that are on bulbs if you want to. Okay. So for the green ones, we're going to go with that, what do we have? Holly green at the base. I put green? Yeah, that is a green one. For a minute I thought it was a yellow one. So green at the base. Okay, the yellow ones are going to get antique gold. Okay, this one is yellow, but for some reason it looks green, so I'll have to fix that. This one apparently put green on it when it needed to be yellow. So let me try and get that green off of there. I think that might be a green one. I think I'll change it to a yellow one. Have to come back and touch up on that one. Okay, antique gold needs to be a little bit darker, so I think I will add a little bit of burnt umber. Not too much, it's going to really dirty up our bulb. So, oh, that was a lot of paint. Sometimes you can't get none to come out, and then you just get tons. Just add a little bit of burnt umber in there. I have to dry that one up there before I can finish it. I want to repeat on the green just to darken that a little bit. So we'll do our shading on each one twice. And then we'll do our blue one again. This is really going to help the tip of them look brighter, so that when we add our highlight on there, it will really stand on top. Deep midnight blue. Okay, let me see if that one's dry. It needs that yellow glow around it. I'm going to retap my snow there because I don't really want my snow to be yellow. Okay. Alright, we got our highlight on twice. So now we're going to put our shading on twice. So now we're just going to put a highlight of white on the ends of all the bulbs. Little stroke. Okay, that looks pretty good. Move it off of here because I think I want to spatter maybe some more snow on it. So again, the spattering, totally optional. Pull my scruffy brushes out of the way. I feel like I've used a ton of brushes on this one. So let me bring my paper back over. I need to set me up one of those sacks so I can spatter inside of a sack instead of all over my tabletop. Alright, white with some let's see if we can get a little bit more on here. Okay. Again, optional step, completely and utterly, totally optional. If you do not like to splatter, then don't do it. Alright, I'm going to add a little brightness to some of our snow piles. We got glamour dust to add on here. And don't lay your arm on your wet splatters, because that's what I just did. Okay, this is looking super duper cute. There's other things that we can do to this, like add dimension to our bulbs by adding some liquid glass. That takes a little bit to dry, so if you want to do that, or we could add it onto our ornaments up here as well. And you can add some of your colors from your project into the background, like a little bit of greens back in there or a little bit of blues. So just create a wash. I believe I put this instruction in my instructions. Let's make sure all those spatters are dry though. Should probably do this before you spatter. Uh-oh. Have to get that off there. That, I don't know where that came from. That's dark blue paint. I have to be careful because I'm erasing on paper here. If I erase too hard, I'll erase right through my glue. Okay, that's good enough. So you can add a little bit of blue tint into your background just by creating a little bit of a wash, but you don't really need to because you've got some glow of these colors coming from other places. I would definitely recommend that you do this before you do highlights so that it's, you know, pushed back behind everything. Okay, so you can just add a touch of blue here and there. Okay, touch of green, touch of red, touch of yellow, whatever you like. Let me go back over my highlight that I got blue on here. Okay, we're looking pretty darn good. I'm liking this. I definitely want it to be completely dry so we can add our glamour dust on here. Okay, I'm changing my grip color because the red did not flow. It was here and here. It didn't flow around the project. So I painted them in with Rookwood Red, and we're going to do just like we did on the bicycle. So we'll shade on them with a mix of Rookwood and a little bit of black. Some of that moisture out of my brush. So just brush mix the two to get a dark red, and we'll just shade the same way we did when they were gray, so around that one. Okay, and then this one's going to get the shading a little bit through the center. Okay, then we're going to highlight like we did with the on the bicycle with the Neon's Fiery Red plus the Berry Red. Mix those two, and this will be our first highlight. There and there, and a little bit along this edge. Okay, we're going to dry that, and then we're going to brighten with a mix of neons and white. A little bit of white. Too much water. With small areas, we don't need a ton of water in our brush or a ton of paint. Need more neons in there. Or a lot. That was a lot. Okay, then just a final little highlight of just white on there. I'm going to darken this area here. A little bit of berry red. I feel like this lost its red. Okay, that looks much better. Brighten up that highlight because it faded right down into that pink. I don't think that pink was dry. Okay. Alright, so now we're going to, let me just darken this a little bit. I don't really like the way my shading is going here. That one down there just definitely needs to be darker. And this one definitely needs to be brighter because it's on top. Zoom in so you can see it. Looks like two hot dogs. So let's make it not look like hot dogs. What do you say? Let's add... No, I'm just getting all kinds of colors I don't want here. Let's make some lines on it like this to make it look like grips. This is a little bit of white, Rookwood red, and a little bit of let's go too far out. Oops. That's not what I wanted to do at all. Okay, so it's berry red, Rookwood red, a little bit of white. I'll get the colors out for you here in a minute. Okay, up here on the top we can go across them. The white, and down here and go across them with white. And then let me dry them so I can repeat that shading. Okay, that looks a little bit better. Okay. Lots of water. That's what happens when you don't dry your brush off. Okay, this is white and a little bit of berry red. Alright, that looks a little bit better. If I hadn't had all that dark color underneath it, they would be a little bit brighter. But not too bad. Not too bad. Okay, so we got glamour dust left to do here. Wide angle out so you can see the whole thing, because that really helps. Our glamour dust that we're going to use on our snow areas, and I think I'm going to put it on my bulbs as well. I want lots of bling 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 on here. But I'm trying to decide if I want to put a stencil on here, Merry and Bright on here, or Merry and Bright over here. I could put it through the middle, but I feel like it needs something else on here. I could put Merry over here and then Bright down here, which that seems like a pretty good option right there. I've varnished this with one coat or two coats of soft touch varnish, so I can apply on top of this for my glamour dust and stenciling, and if I don't like the stenciling, then I can remove it and not damage the paper. So let me move my palette over so I'm not laying my stencil in my paint. And let's do Merry right there. I'm going to get a makeup sponge. And we are going to use some fresh paint. I'm going to use Rookwood red. I really want my red to flow around this project. And I might mix a little bit of berry with it just to brighten it a little bit. straight up and down tapping when you're using a makeup sponge, and don't overfill it. Alright, see how that looks. Merry, I like that, so let me try that. Right. I just want to make sure I'm straight when I apply this. I had just a tad bit too much paint there on my sponge, so I might get some bleed under right there. Yep, I got a little bleed under right there, so let me clean that up. I could tell when I put my sponge down I had too much paint on it. Okay, so I'm going to take my small round or detail brush. Okay. And some paint here. I'm going to fix this. Removed a little bit of paint when I was cleaning it. And then I'm going to close up my gaps here, which are bridges. When I make a stencil, I have to have these in it. But I don't necessarily like to see them on my painted piece. I think I need to get a different brush. This one's too fat on the tip, I think. Okay, that looks pretty good. This has been the messiest project I have ever painted in my entire life. I mean, I just have paint everywhere. It's ridiculous. Okay, I do want to do a little bit of a drop shadow beside these, so I'm definitely going to get a smaller brush. I'm going to get a different... And I'm going to use black, thin black. Okay, so we're going to go on the left side. Let me zoom in here. I'm just going to go right to the left side of all my letters. This is optional. If you do not want to do this or don't think that you can do this, you can certainly leave this off of your painting. Here. must be a flowy consistency in order to do this. Okay, look how that really changes the lettering up. I love how that looks. Okay. All right, last word. Just to the left. Lefts and lowers. Okay, that looks super good. I'm not going to do anything else to those letters, but we're going to put our glamour dust on now. And then you will reapply a coat of varnish. Once your lettering is done, that's when you'll apply your varnish, because I didn't know if I wanted lettering, so it was kind of optional. So I can just varnish over that lettering. So with our glamour dust, we're just going to apply it. I'm going to put it on, on my bulbs, and I will be applying 2 coats, and I'm going to put it on my all of my snow places. I like to see the bling on my Christmas designs, so this will just be 1 coat on here. I'll go off camera, get it dry, and apply a 2nd coat on here. I think I might put some on my star as well. Make my star all glittery. So let me put a quick coat on the star. And then while I have this round brush, I'm going to put some on my snow mounds, wherever they all are. Get this dry and do a 2nd coat. Okay, and you can't see the bling yet, but it is there. We could bling up our lettering if we wanted to and make that blingy. It really depends on what kind of mood I'm in. right now I'm in a bling everything up mood, so let me get this dry. Okay, I've got it done now. I think it is so stinking cute. I love this surface, one of my favorite surfaces to paint on. I've added my bling bling bling, although it's not dry, so it's not going to reflect too well until it's dry. A couple of coats. Excuse me, I did all my lights and all my snow with the, and the star with the Glamour Dust Ice Crystal. This was a super incredibly fun project. I enjoyed painting it so much with you guys. I hope that you have enjoyed painting it as well. Please give me a thumbs up, like, share, and comment on this video. I really appreciate you all, and I can't wait to bring you the next one. So I'll see you on the next one, everybody. Bye-bye.